When I was 18, heading off to college, my parents bought me a car to make the commute easier, mostly so I could come home from time to time. They didn't want me ride sharing with other college students or taking expensive trains or buses. It was a 2010 Chevy Impala, and this was back in 2015, so it was still relatively new with low enough miles. I was beyond excited because I wasn't expecting such a gift. My parents both worked hard, but by no means did I expect them to be able to buy me a car. Of course, I was excited to head off to college, but I was also nervous about being so far away from home for the first time for so long. The day was finally here to pack up my new car and head off to my future. I was a bundle of nerves, and so was my mom. I could see in her face she wasn't ready to let me go. But last box loaded, we hugged and exchanged tearful I love yous, and I was off on the open highway, away to my future. It was a 5-hour drive, and I had a road trip playlist and route planned out to the minute. Less than 10 minutes into my drive, I started to feel the whole car shake. It was a weird feeling. The whole car, including the steering wheel, began shaking. As soon as I could, I found a place to pull over. But as I was pulling into the rest stop to park, it stopped. I drove it around the parking lot a while, just making sure it wouldn't start again. And it didn't, so I headed back to the highway. About half an hour later, the stereo turned off, and no matter how many times I hit power, it wouldn't turn back on. Not wanting to pull over again, I just kept driving. It wasn't anything to do with how the car was functioning. Probably 10 minutes later, the music came back on so loudly and suddenly that I almost veered off the road. During my first planned stop, I ran into the gas station to get a few snacks and a Diet Pepsi to keep me properly caffeinated. As I was getting back into the car, I noticed it was moving on its own. I checked and it was firmly in park. The keys were in my hand, so it wasn't even running. It was moving at a rather good pace, and no matter how hard I hit the brakes, it didn't slow or stop. Starting to panic, I felt around for the emergency brake, and was just about to hit it when the car suddenly stopped, jolting me forward. I was still shaken up from the radio malfunctioning, and certainly had not forgotten about the shaking, so I wasn't looking forward to getting back on the main highway. Everything was going seemingly well for about an hour. I was getting hungry. It was about lunchtime, so I decided to pull off and grab a burger somewhere. I pulled into a shady spot in the back parking lot, shut the engine off to give it a rest, and ate my lunch. I was finishing up when I heard whispering coming from somewhere. I instinctively turned to the back seat, thinking maybe someone had gotten in there while I was in the restaurant. But no one was there. The whispering actually sounded like it was coming from the front of the car as I listened more intently. So I climbed out, making sure there weren't any small children sitting where I couldn't see them. But there was absolutely no one around. The only cars on the property at the moment were the employee cars in the other lot. Shaking it off, I knew I better get back on the road so I could get there and get the car unpacked before dark. The rest of the trip went well, and I was beginning to think that it was just a series of weird events that I would eventually push out of my mind. But I was wrong. I was on my third and final trip to the car to bring my things to my dorm. As I approached the car, the headlights turned on and the locks engaged, even though I had just hit the unlock button as I was walking up. I hit the unlock button again, went to open the door, and as my hand hit the handle, the locks engaged again. I thought I heard someone laughing coming from near or inside the car. I was frustrated from the earlier incidents, and slammed my hand on the driver's door, saying out loud, "Can I just get in to get the last of my things? That's all I want." Suddenly, my door opened. I don't mean that it unlocked. It opened and nearly knocked me on my butt. I regained my balance and stood there for a few seconds in shock. There is no way a car door just opens on its own, I thought. But I really just wanted to get my things and go relax in my room, or at least be away from this car for a while. So I grabbed the last few things and locked the car up tightly. As I walked away, the horn honked and the lights flashed. I paused for a second, slightly afraid of what I would find when I turned around. Turning around, I dropped everything I had in my arms and let out a scream that I had never heard leave my body any other time. There was a figure sitting in the passenger seat of my car. I instantly could tell I was seeing a ghost, just the way the girl looked. Her skin was grayish, not a normal skin tone. You could clearly tell she wasn't alive. She had to be somewhere around 16 or 17. A woman approached me, helping me gather my things. She put her hand on my arm and said, "Hey, are you okay? Was someone following you?" But I reassured her I was okay and thanked her for her help. I decided to run my car through one of those websites that tells you the history of the vehicle. And to my surprise, it was in an accident in the first 6 months of being bought back in 2010. It wasn't just an accident. The car was actually totaled, and it had a salvage title until apparently 2011, when someone had it restored. I was able to find news articles on the accident by researching accidents in the area we lived and the year and make of the car. It was driven by the 16-year-old daughter of a couple that was rather well off. This was her second car, as she had wrecked the first one, and they gave her a new one for some reason. She was driving home one night. It was raining, and she was driving too fast for the conditions, veered off the road, and hit a tree head-on. She didn't survive. I explained everything that happened to my dad, and at first he didn't believe me, but I was so shaken up, and I sent him the accident articles. So eventually he agreed to sell the car, and we would find another one in the right price range. I'm glad you sold the car. I hope someone eventually cleansed it, or maybe the new owners don't mind being haunted while driving. I don't like to drive to begin with, so I'd be freaking out. Thanks for sharing your story with us. If you have a paranormal story to share, email it to the address in the description below. Please like and subscribe. It helps us be seen. And with that, see you tomorrow, friends.